Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of TLDR, an interview program where I'm going to be meeting with the board members of Project NISEI, a fan organization dedicated to continuing Netrunner after official support has ended. My first guest is the Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion Lead, Alice Rees. Thanks very much for coming on the show.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. You're a returning guest.
Yeah. It's been a long time, but
Couple years now since the last time you were on the program. Thank you for joining me, even with time zones being a concern.
yeah, no worries. It's
So
actually midday, like 1 o'clock on a Saturday, so it's no bother.
yeah, you are one of the several volunteers. Well, it's going to be many volunteers eventually when you include all the staff. You're one of the volunteers trying to keep our beloved game going
Yeah,
after official FFG support ends really in about a week.
yeah. It's crazy to think it's so close.
Yeah, I mean, this summer has flown by since the announcement, I would say. And today we're going to do kind of a spin on my dirty laundry format where we're going to play some Netrunner together. And we're going to talk about some questions both about you personally so people can get to know you a little bit better as a community member and as a board member of NISEI.
Yeah,
And also learn more about your role on the board and what that's going to mean for the community going forward. But first, do you want to talk a little bit about the deck we're going to be playing today and why it's important?
yeah. So I think most people will be aware of what's happened this week. Someone really kind of important in the UK meta scene, Ciara Maxey, took her own life. This came as a real big shock to pretty much everyone who knew her. Ciara came to nationals and seemed to have a really good time. A lot of us spent a lot of time with her, chatted, and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's really shaken everyone up and really kind of emphasized the difficulties that people can face. Kiara's a trans woman and suffered with pretty severe depression, and yeah, it's been pretty rough for her for the last year. And yeah, I guess everything just came to a crescendo.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, a lot of what she faced, obviously there was a lot of positivity in the community towards her, but there was a lot of, negative things that trans women and all members of marginalized communities face, which
Yeah,
is why it's kind of important that we talk about your role in the board and why I think it's one of the most important ones that we have when you consider how to maintain a good community and also the theme of Netrunner and a lot of other things that have been discussed. To the end of Kiara's, there is a link in the show notes on the YouTube video. I don't know if it'll come through on Twitch, but I'll put a link on the VOD for a memorial fund for an organization. It's based in the UK, right?
yeah,
um, for support for people dealing with gender identity and the various social, emotional, mental stresses that can come from being a trans person, non-binary person, anyone really that is dealing with their own identity and gender. Did I summarize that well?
yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So,
We're hoping that this fundraiser, organised primarily by Talasin, is gonna go some way to helping other people who find themselves struggling with the difficulties that they
yeah. Are you moving your mic around or moving something near your mic?
I was moving a second ago, but I'm sitting still now.
Okay. But yeah, that's important stuff. Check out the link. There's various things in the community discussing this issue. But let's jump right into, before we actually fire up the game, tell me a little bit, Alice, about your story. What got you into Netrunner? What hooked you on the game to the point that, you know, you want to dedicate a large portion of your time to keeping the game going?
Okay, so I started playing Netrunner round about when Order and Chaos came out. So I think maybe that was the end of 2015, around there. And so before that, I had played quite a lot of Magic the Gathering, and I got very frustrated with Magic the Gathering because of how much you need to be able to pay into the game to be able to do well. And so I ended up getting out of Magic. And a lot of my friends sort of stopped playing Magic at the same time. And there was kind of a lull, and then some people picked up Netrunner. And I didn't give it any time to start with, really. I was just kind of, this is just going to be another Magic. I'm just going to lose time and money and get frustrated, and I don't want to get into and then fall out of another game. But as more and more of my friends got into it, and then they started going to events, GNKs, store champs, that kind of thing. And that was the biggest thing that I missed about Magic, was going to competitive events and meeting new people and playing with new people. And seeing my friends do this again with this new game was kind of what kind of convinced me to give it a try, really. But so I gave it a go, and I was like really adamant that I was absolutely not going to be buying into it. I was like, yeah, I'll learn it, I'll play it. Maybe I'll come along to some casual events and play with your cards, but I'm not.
Little did you know.
Yeah, well, so it was like I played my first game, and then maybe a month later I had finished my collection.
Yeah. So you and I have something else in common that I'd like to bring up before we go any farther. You and I both have Netrunner tattoos, isn't that right?
That is right, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that, because I was also adamant that I wasn't going to pick up any lifestyle games, and look how that worked out for the both of us.
Yeah. We were real suckers, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so do you have, I mean, obviously you joining the board is a major contribution going forward and currently, but is there anything that maybe our viewers might remember you from previously, tournament wins, community events, anything where people might have seen you in the past?
So I did win quite a large UK regional in 2016. I won the Birmingham regional, and I think that was my kind of entrance to the UK scene. It was the first event I'd really travelled for, and yeah, it was really just that my first time meeting a lot of the kind of the big names in the community, the people that everyone already know, Dave Hyland, Chris Dyer, Jono, Dave Sayer, all those people. And yeah, I just sort of came out of nowhere and won this event. And as we've discussed before, I won it with quite a kind of out of left field deck, NEH with snares and kill.
Yeah, I believe that's what I had you on the channel for way back in the day.
Yeah, it was, yeah. We tried it out, and it was a complete flop. It entirely relied on the fact that no one knew what I was doing, so when the word got out, it was just easy.
I mean, that's a very common problem with my guests, is that they come on my show, and since I stream live, we just put up like 3 losses. But yeah, all right. Yeah. So we're going to jump into a game here, and we're going to slow play. Please be patient. And let's start with the meat of the questions. We'll kind of jump around here. So, okay. While we're waiting for a game, start talking to me a little bit about your board position as the equality, inclusion, and diversity, or equality, diversity, and inclusion lead for the board. What does that mean? What is kind of your sphere, and what can people look forward to from you as far as your role?
So, when NISEI was initially put together, the selection committee was entirely made up of white American men. And we're getting to yeah, so it was quite clear that we couldn't necessarily rely on someone or a group of people kind of considering how important diversity is, because they'd made it clear from the off that that was not something that they had in mind. So the first job was to get someone on the selection committee who was diverse, and we had Catherine very kindly volunteered for the selection process. But Draco, so Jacob Morris, who did all that work.
Oh, you're getting softer.
So Jacob Morris, consulted with a bunch of people and said, okay, how do we address this, and how do we make it clear that actually, despite initial appearances, yeah, I agree with the keep there.
Yeah.
Despite initial appearances, how do we make it clear that diversity is important to us and is going to be something that we care about going forward? And so we discussed it a lot, and I think the conclusion was that we need someone on the board who's going to have oversight and awareness, and it's going to look at basically everything that NISEI does and really be accountable for making it an inclusive, open, welcoming community. So FFG obviously made this wonderful world with this diverse cast of characters.
But Alice, I've never personally witnessed any issues where anyone, as a white man, I've never witnessed any moments where anyone felt unwelcome in the community. Heavy sarcasm.
Yeah, so this is something that was mentioned. This got brought up. And I think it's really great, Dan, that you, as a middle-class white man, have not experienced any unwelcomeness in the community. But there are people who have. Like, so if we take Ciara, just because she's going to be at the forefront of everyone's mind, this wonderful deck that we're playing right now has been Decklist of the Week as a sort of tribute. And even so, even in this lovely thing that we're trying to do, there are people leaving transphobic comments.
Right.
And even in this awful, awful situation, people are still making others feel unwelcome. And it's clear that as much as people will say, "Oh, Netrunner is the greatest community that I've ever been a part of,"
which may be true.
Yeah,
the bar is low.
But we've got a long way to go still.
Yeah. I mean, so briefly, I think those are all important points. So yeah, Sergio, I'm aware of the background noise. So, you know, looking at this deck, this is an identity. I have a link to the deck list in the show notes. This is an identity that she was really interested in.
Yeah. Ciara loved a bit of jammy HB, and this is just jammy HB at its finest, you know. Put some agendas behind some ice and go as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah, and I think just as a follow-up to your discussion of the lore, you know, I would say that I'm probably an above-average player at best. strongly above average, let's say.
Yeah.
But I think one of the biggest things for me when I think about Netrunner is what really brought me in was the very ambitious view of the future that it had, that I hadn't really ever seen
Yeah.
anywhere else. What should we discard here?
So I think Arc Lockdown is a good discard here. There's nothing in the peak right now that we want to get rid of, and it's early enough that we can get rid of it without worry.
But it's this super unique view of the future where you know, cyberpunk's one of my favorite genres, and Netrunner, you know, because of Lucas and Damon and other people on the team, regardless of card design, we're not talking about card designs here, so don't at me about terrible card designs, but they did a really great job of being like, well, what if we should we get cards or credits here?
Yeah, I think we go for cards here.
What if we imagined cyberpunk through the lens of other non-gritty white dude cyberpunk? Do you know what I'm saying? And it's so evocative and it's so interesting, and one of the things that made the game so incredibly compelling for me was that aspect.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, even in what's known as the really great cyberpunk books, your Neuromancers and your Snow Crashers and that kind of thing, all our main protagonists are white dudes, and just seeing something a little bit different is so appealing.
Yeah, I was discussing with Holly that Holly Chandler that every good identity in Netrunner is a woman of color.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely incredible, the powerful women that we see in this setting. I absolutely love it so much.
Well, we're getting a lot of fast advance tools, so
yeah, it's
oh, if we get Apocalypse here, I'm gonna be mad.
Yep. Oh man. Nice play, Apex player.
Yeah, Apex actually playing. Who actually plays Apocalypse as Apex? What is happening right now? All right, so how do we recover here?
I think we put that Tollbooth on R&D, that Surveyor on the remote, and the Rashida behind it. And we'll hopefully
move on with our lives.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because like we can draw the other Vitruviuses and a one-pointer and just win out of hand.
I know. Those biotics hopefully are going to help us a ton.
Yeah. So diversity is at the core of what Netrunner is as a game. It's all about exploring themes that are familiar to us in places or in ways that we maybe didn't anticipate, right?
Yeah. Like, we've got a cyberpunk India. How cool is that?
I mean, I think it's pretty cool.
It's real cool.
I think also one of the other things, you know, when I think about Netrunner and the community that it's created because of this. Yeah, somebody's asking if we're going to go to Cyberpunk Europe at some point.
I mean, I'm not in the design or development teams, but I can lean pretty hard on them.
Yeah. But I think one of the biggest things is I think Netrunner ended up having such a great community and a really diverse community. How is this Apex person installing ASOPs?
Oh, yeah, he just straight up installed it, right? I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you haven't got your simulator down, man.
But yeah, we attracted the diverse community, relatively speaking, to other card games because of the compelling nature of this theme, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
we've got queer runners, we have non-binary runners, we have trans runners, we have all these issues coming out in the Mumbad cycle of like what makes a purpose.
Yeah. as interesting as the mechanics and stuff are, there are a lot of people that will just drift away from something if they aren't gripped by the theme and the story, and Netrunner does that in a way that's so different to anything else.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. Why not? We can keep going.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Oh well.
But yeah, so yeah, that's so cheap. Take care. Yeah, I didn't even think about it. All right, but let's do a fun question.
Okay.
What makes an ID fun for you? Like when you're evaluating an ID personally, what makes an ID fun for you? And give me an example of an ID that you really enjoy.
Ooh, that's interesting. So I really like ID abilities that are unique, things that aren't found on cards. So like a prime example would be Leela, who is my absolute all-time favorite identity. Nothing really does that. And so I guess things that I like in a runner identity ability are ways to interact with the corpse board in an interesting way. And so the corpse ID abilities are maybe a little bit different in what I find interesting, because I like them to be able to interact with their own board state in an interesting way, but not necessarily the runner's board state. I think if you let the corp mess around with the runner's board state too much, things can get a bit unbalanced.
Yeah, I mean, I can get down with that. Yeah. I mean, if you are able to just I think it's really interesting because if you have too much ability to just invalidate the play areas, things become very weird. Like a perfect example is like a little bit of ice destruction is fine and balanced, but like when we were in like the Dumble Fork days and you just couldn't keep ice on the board.
Yeah.
It was really wild, like with the three parasites, like, you know, Cypher, and and it was just like this crazy, like, well, I guess I might as well just not play ice, and we had all these corp decks that were playing like going super lateral with like no ice because there was no even point in rezzing it. And it's the same thing if you can just trash stuff out of the runner's rig without having to do very much. It just basically makes it so that people can't really play.
Yeah.
So when you think about your board position, you know, focusing on equality, diversity, inclusion, and in our community, maintaining what we've tried to build and improving it going forward, what are you excited to work on? What drew you to the position personally? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Okay, so I think, as I said, whilst things are pretty good, there's so much more that can be done. And I think someone, like, so I'm not going to be perfect at this, but I know a lot of people who face a lot of different challenges, who are engaged with the game and the community, and I'm going to engage with them and like have more of a direct involvement to find out what people need than FFG ever did. And I'm really keen to be able to make the community that people want and need, and not necessarily just coming down from above like it did with FFG.
Yeah, I agree. So, you know, this is some of the, as a follow-up, this is some of the, you know, the harder questions for the board members. Talk to me about an area you think where we can definitely improve. Also, should I take the money or the bad pub?
So that's a Vitruvius in the server, right?
Correct.
I think we have to say the bad pub here.
So we can protect and still score that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like where? Oh, all right, whatever.
Yeah. Once you've got one, whatever, go now.
You might as well have 5. What do you think is an area that, you know, we need to get working on right away?
An increased awareness of the importance of having a welcoming and accessible environment for game stores. I think there are so many stores that don't even give a thought to like gender neutral bathrooms or wheelchair accessible areas or like the cost of events, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes even farther than that. You know, like the Philly Regionals location, Red Cap's Corner, is pretty good because it has 2 gender-neutral bathrooms, and then there's another gender-neutral bathroom upstairs in the play space. So it's pretty good, but it's like the store here in our local area that we've utilized in Delaware has 1 bathroom with a broken lock.
Oh.
And, you know, we have
massive safety issues right there.
Right. And it's a filthy bathroom with a broken lock, and, you know, we had a player in our community who was a new mother, and like that's just not an acceptable being like, well, if you need to nurse, you can go in there.
Gross bathroom with no lock. Yeah,
and it's just like they're so used to a male dominated space, right? Where I think about, because everybody's like, oh, the lock's broken, but you just tell people to get out if they accidentally walk in on you. I'm like, right, that's way more comfortable for a guy to do than a woman or someone who needs their privacy in the or, you know, values their privacy more in the bathroom. People shouldn't have to be cool with that to use the space.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I think we just money up and put some ice on cheap ice on R&D.
Yeah, I think icing R&D and then like credit. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and this stuff is important. I mean, I think that what you're doing is super duper important, just from my own personal experience, because I know for me, being in the community for a long time and being very accepted, I myself have noticed that it was easier for me to advocate for a lot of the issues that are important to me personally, LGBT issues, when there was the assumption that I was a straight white male, because I was coming from the position of everyone assuming that I was on their team. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you touch on that. I think that's why it's so important that people in minority groups have majority group allies, because it's sort of been demonstrated time and time again that a straight white man is going to listen to a straight white man over listening to a trans woman or a black guy or whatever. So if
or there's an assumption now that, well, you're just advocating, even somebody like me or Patrick or any of the other people in the community, there's this, or tons of people, there's this implication that, well, you're just saying that because you're on that team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. Just having... It's easier to take a lesson from someone who is like you.
Right.
People don't want to be humble. They don't want to, like, listen to people that are different than them. And there's this difficulty in that when you're in a position of power and privilege and don't realize it, and don't acknowledge that, when you have to engage with people who don't have that same privilege, It's really difficult to adjust. And, like, people don't necessarily even do this out of any active hostility, just ignorance.
Right. There's no active malaise.
Yeah.
People who don't have that same privilege.
Talking back to myself.
Yep. But what I would say, yeah, I mean, I think that's an excellent point. And I think that's one of the things that is an important takeaway for anyone listening to this, regardless of what socio-ethnic and whatever groups you belong to. It's very important to always realize that there's nothing wrong with stepping back and just evaluating what you're saying, what you're thinking, or why somebody is reacting the way that they are to you, or why you're reacting to a situation the way that you are. I find that for a lot of people in the middle who kind of get defensive when these issues are brought up, if they just stepped back, took a breath, and realized that it's not about them personally per se, and it's not necessarily an indictment of them, that they would be able to kind of accept things more easily. I didn't articulate that very well, but does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not saying you specific person that we're talking to are bad. We're saying that you are more privileged, perhaps, than other people, and you need to acknowledge that.
Right. So
it's not a personal attack. It's never a personal attack. It is. It's just about trying to level the playing field. And
it's about making sure. I think one of the other things that I was discussing when I was having this discussion with somebody online is for a lot of people, it's not that they're doing anything overt, right? 90% of the pressure that may keep people from coming to meetups or tournaments or being really active in the community are not anything that anyone's overtly doing where people are like, yes, and I will keep the minorities out of the game by harassing them. No, most people aren't behaving that way. It's these tiny, tiny little things that stack up, right? Like, I think about myself. When I go to an event, a lot of times I have to just, in my own personal life, overcome just, I didn't want to get dressed today. Do I really want to drive all that way? I'm going to be tired at the end of it. I've got a lot of stuff to do, right? We all have these types of just ordinary everyday pressures that make it hard for us, or varying degrees of difficult for us to socialize, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then what happens if, well, man, do I really want to go and be asked by every person or by half the people that I play against if my boyfriend plays? Yeah. Or how long have I been playing? Or have somebody explain my deck back to me, right? Oh, and you might say, oh, well, that doesn't happen. But if it happens once or twice, these are little things that stack up that eventually lead to people leaving the community because it just becomes not worth it for them to make that effort. And then they either play at home, maybe play on JNet, or maybe not at all.
Yeah, it's... Oh, if we got... Is that a Chicana? That's exciting.
Yeah, we've got some wild stuff happening.
Yeah, I've just been sort of half ignoring their game. I'm like, cool, we're going to just score these agendas out of this remote. But maybe not now.
Right. So what I'm trying to get at is especially if you talk about the matter at hand, trans members of the community, right? It's very important that you're aware of them and you listen to them about how they want to be treated, and otherwise just treat them the same way you would anybody else. That's the number one thing. Make it so people can have the same relaxed experience that you have when you go.
Yeah. Like, accept them and help them if needed. Like, make it easy for them to enjoy themselves. Have a gender-neutral bathroom. Don't misgender them. But don't treat them weirdly.
Right. But I don't even mean weirdly. Like, it's subtle things.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
again, I'm not articulating this super well.
So let's move on to another question. Going back to the ID thing, what's an ID that you like that you wanted to be good that is garbage?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Let's think. So I'm gonna have to say New Angeli's Soul.
I feel like there was the potential there, but then it just didn't come together.
Like, every now and again, I'm like, ooh, maybe Soul is good in this meta. Scarcity's great, Newtown's great. And then you're like,
nope.
Okay, but you need other things. You need other ingredients. Other decks can play Scarcity in Newtown.
Well, I think the big thing that makes Soul kind of not land is it has an ability that is beaten just by having slots, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I can always have a current in play. I could also always have a current in play if I have 3 copies of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's see. Do we draw the full 3 here?
Yeah, why not? Gatekeeper's really interesting and can let you kind of really filter.
All right, do we throw the agenda back here?
I don't even think we do.
Okay, so we'll just leave it, and then we'll end the run. But yeah, for me, that on Corpse side, that identity for me was because we built it.
Oh,
man, that identity is garbage.
It's so bad. Like, it's so pushed. Like, they kept printing advanceable ice, and it's kind of like, no, it's still better to have other cool things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be playable if it was you have to pay the credit, and you have to pay the credit, but you can, once per turn, you can put an advancement. I mean, this is what they did with SSL, basically.
Yeah.
Or SSO. But it's just like, at the end of your turn, you can place 1 advancement counter without a click.
Yeah. Clicks are so much more valuable than credits.
Than a recurring credit.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, one card, would you bring back from rotation and why?
Oh man, so I really have to fight the urge to say Account Siphon just because I love that card, but
yeah.
I don't think that's my
actual
hate
flow
answer.
through you.
So this is weird, but I think we discard a Rashida here.
Yeah, we have a lot of cards.
Yeah. Man, what card would I bring back? So I really struggle to remember what's gone and what's still around. I think like what's the event I'm thinking of?
So for me, it's Parasite.
Oh really? Even though, like, you were just saying before, a little bit of Ice Destruction's fine, but...
I mean, I think if there's no Cipher, and I think if there's no noise, I think Parasite is a much more balanced card than it was. There's so much more punishment for making runs to farm data sucker counters.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
okay.
You can get hurt bad for making runs nowadays in a way that you really couldn't, except for against... like Sync or Wayland back in the day. But
yeah, that's
you can say Account Siphon. Account Siphon's valid. I think Account Siphon is also balanced now when you consider how bad of an idea having tags are. High Profile Target feels like a card that was meant to make it so that Siphon could stay. Because then if you siphoned and you didn't clear tags, I can credit kill you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting point. So, like, I'm leaning away from saying it just because, like, it's what everyone expects of me to say, because everyone knows I love this card.
It's a good card.
But, like,
Oh, somebody says that they miss Chess Reina. I miss those cards too, but I also wish that they had been designed just slightly more click click positive.
Yeah. So I think probably fetal AI.
Fetal AI, that's a good choice. Why fetal?
So I just think that card is so interesting, right? It does something really well. It's a really nice agenda that protects itself. It's a little bit of credit tax, a little bit of card tax. I don't know. I just love how it's designed. I love how versatile and interesting that card is.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah.
I love cards that force decisions, and I think fetal does force decisions.
I agree. So I think next turn we're probably going to jam the Vitruvius, put the vanilla on there, and advance it one. Actually, we don't even have to advance it. We have Biotic, but we could advance it because I don't think they can get in next turn.
No, they can't afford it, right?
Yeah, because they got to get Clippy out of the bin, which will eat all their bad pub.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fetal AI, what an interesting choice. I like that one. Yeah. So while we're kind of waiting for our opponent to mull over their turn here, talk to me about some of your, you're not the organized play, like community manager directly, but obviously your board position is, very symbiotic with that role. So talk to me about some of your favorite Netrunner community moments and, what made them special, and how do we replicate the moments and things that made you so committed to the game?
Oh, right. Yeah. So it really is the group organized play stuff and the events that sucked me right in and got me to stick. And it's really difficult to pull out specific moments because it's really very much this rich tapestry of all the people I've met and all the fun things I've got to do and all the genuine real friends I've made that I know I will stay friends with even if one of us ever stops playing Netrunner.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, all of my friends that I interact with on a daily basis now, for the most part, that aren't role players, they're all Netrunner people. Like, everybody in the Ghost branch.
Yeah.
They're all... Ooh, do we res this here? The Architect? Because we'll get a fire, I think.
Yeah, sure. I think there's no harm in resing it. If we res it, we can still afford to score the Vitruvius next turn.
But yeah,
Oh, no, we can't because we need to res Jeeves and that puts us down.
Well, we can put some money cards out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Let's take a look. Aurela Salvatore. Another Biotic Labor Architect Gatekeeper. I guess probably the pick here is to put to put the Aurela, or do we just put a second Jeeves on the table?
Aurela helps us if they somehow do get in to steal that agenda.
Yeah.
And we've got it for the future.
Yeah, let's put that in there. Do we want to just put one of the Rashidas?
It will help us, yeah.
In the new remote?
Yeah.
Feels good. But yeah.
So, I think even more than the actual tournaments themselves is the times I've spent hanging out before and after them, like going for breakfast with a big group of my friends.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah. Or getting dinner afterwards, or just mooching about the day after a tournament when a bunch of us have stayed somewhere, that kind of thing. And playing other games and chatting and just doing the things you do with friends, right?
Yeah. No, I've always said my favorite part of any Netrunner event is the part where we go, get food, and just talk for 2 hours after the tournament. I adore it.
Absolutely. I don't agree with Res here. Yeah, it's so good, and like you'll get some people who want to discuss the tournament, and you'll get some people who just talk about anything and everything, and it's magic. There's nothing else like it.
And this magic only happens because we're like a weird fucked up family. And and in our local metas, you know, you see these types of things happen when people feel comfortable, when people feel like everybody is their friends and Absolutely. They are accepted. So that is kind of the critical essence I was hoping you would touch on, because that's the essence of what we're talking about when we talk about making people feel included, making people feel welcome, is it fosters this community that keeps us coming back, that keeps us engaged, where we feel comfortable being out with the members of the community. It's not just you go to the store, you play in the tournament, and you leave. Absolutely. That only comes if people feel welcome and accepted for who they are.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
And that's the part that I really enjoy. I don't think I've ever been a part of a community where I could be, a gaming community where I can be myself as much as I can be in this community.
Yeah, it's just incredible. Like, yeah.
We're going to do the thing.
Excellent.
We're also going to draw a lot of cards, but whatever.
Great. I love cards. Cards are so good. They help you in the
game. We can't Resurrella and still score Vitruvius, but that's okay. Because we'll also have a Vitruvius counter. Because even though Chicana increases the cost, we still get the counter after the fact.
It makes it real good with the advanceable agendas.
Yeah, I think we don't need the second biotic.
No, we're probably good with just the one.
And we probably won't use these Fairchilds at this juncture.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and that's the essence of Netrunner for me as the community. Hey, Miles, welcome. So when you consider the future of the game, what do you think in the immediate future, talking about post-Worlds, what is your biggest concern, not necessarily for your board position, but obviously you can talk about that as well. What's kind of your biggest concern in the immediate future for NISEI?
So I think we have to get our stuff, our organized play, our prize support, everything that we're going to do, we have to get it moving quite quickly, and we have to gain and maintain a significant amount of momentum. Otherwise, people will lose faith. I think we're at risk of people just dropping off at the end of the official support if we don't catch them away.
If you don't have like a chain of custody where like you go fluidly into, and now let's get excited about this.
Exactly, yeah. So like that is I think the biggest challenge we're facing straight away.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. So let's talk a little bit also about kind of the nuts and bolts of your position, and talk to me a little bit about what kind of some of the mechanisms you're going to use to do your job. When you think about it, I know we're still, we're not fully codified necessarily yet, but give people an idea of how are you going to do your job? How can they help, and how are you going to do the job that you need to do?
Okay. So the first and kind of one of the most important things that I'm involved in is I'm going to be a big part of this whole recruitment process that we've got going on at the moment, and just having oversight to make sure that our recruitment process is set up to help everyone succeed at their applications. Like, we want to make it easy for the best people to get involved, and we don't want there to be any barriers to getting involved. And I'm going to make sure that people don't get overlooked in their applications for any reason, and just making sure that everyone is really aware of the value of having a diverse team when choosing the people that they're going to bring on board.
Well, what is the value of having a diverse team? Because we can't assume that these things are common knowledge, because as you and I have both experienced, they're not.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that we can agree on is how good Netrunner is because of how varied and colourful and different everything in it is, you know? There's so much difference in flavour and mechanic between all the different cards. And one of the best ways to facilitate that continuing is to have a lot of different points of view and thoughts and backgrounds getting involved in the process of creation. If everyone who is involved in continuing the game thinks in the same way and has the same background and the same experiences, then that's going to severely limit what we can do.
Yeah.
Whereas if we have a lot of different people involved and a lot of different people who have these different experiences and different thoughts and different spheres of knowledge, then we have a much greater pool of creative energy and knowledge and resource to create from.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I think about when I had Damon on the show to talk about his favorite lore bits. And he talked about the team that was involved with helping him create the Mumbad cycle. And he talked about reaching out to people, having people not just review what he wanted to do, but, you know, he was reaching out to people who were experts on, you know, some of the elements of Indian religion, some of the elements of Indian culture and politics, to try to get that sense of how he could create something that was celebratory and also provocative.
Yeah.
And that is a very important distinction that I think, you know, people have so many opinions about Damon. But I will say that one thing is as an African-American man, he was sensitive, I think, to how cultures could be misappropriated or exploited for entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's so important.
And that only comes from having that diverse voice as part of the community.
Yeah. I think a really good recent example of that is Liza. She is such an incredible, interesting character. And from everything I've heard, the team at Fantasy Flight did a lot of research and like talked to a lot of people to really represent that character as best as they could. And look at the awesome, cool character that's got us, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So, what is something, if you had to give people one piece of advice to improve or evaluate their local community, not just for Netrunner, but for gaming in general, what's one piece of it, like what's a high-level piece of advice you would give to people who are looking to be better?
That's a really interesting thought. So,
or what's a mindset that they should have?
Yeah. Just like try and be aware of the challenges that other people are facing. If you're organizing an event, just give a little thought to how it's gonna be accessible to people in a wheelchair. Or is it going to be in a venue that's welcoming to trans people? Is it going to be in a really loud, crowded place that's not going to be suitable for autistic people? Just think about the people who might want to come and play and make it as easy as you can for them to come and enjoy themselves.
I think that's really great. Yeah, I think that's really important, is to kind of step away and think about how other people may approach whatever you're doing, whether it's an event, a meetup, what have you.
Exactly.
If you don't mind me stepping on your toes a little bit, something that I've always used when you're talking about like building an inclusive meetup, like the actual meetup itself.
Yeah.
When you're going to ask any person a question, I always evaluate it by saying, would I ask someone who is like me the same question?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, I don't ask the question.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Like, you would not ask yourself, like, someone like you would not say, oh, did your boyfriend introduce you to this game?
Right.
You know.
Right. I wouldn't say, yeah, oh, did your girlfriend introduce you to this game?
Yeah.
To another man. So that means that that's not an appropriate question for me to ask a female player.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. On a comedy note, another good evaluative statement for speaking with female players, women players, is if you could imagine Quark from Deep Space Nine saying what you're about to say,
away. Yeah.
Then don't say it.
That is a very strong rule of thumb. Yeah.
Yeah, but no. So we got through our game. We got a win in our real game, and we won pretty handily while half paying attention. So that's pretty exciting. So talk to me a little bit about what plugs or announcements do you have to make. You know, we're going into Worlds Week next week. Is there anything you'd like to bring up or talk about before we wind down?
I'm so excited for Worlds. You have no idea. Like, I fly out in 2 or 3 days, and I'm just like bouncing off the walls with anticipation. So plugs and announcements. We have decided to slightly extend the deadline for applying to NISEI team roles because there was a little bit of confusion because we canvassed the community for should NISEI members be able to play in NISEI-run events. The answer to this question was more important to some people's decision to apply to team positions than we thought it would be. So some people have said, well, I can't apply until I know the answer to this question. So we've looked at the data and we're going to kind of extend that just so people have all the information that they need to apply.
Okay.
So we're going to continue to do the Friday announcements. I think that's something that's been really good so far. Just keeping visible, keeping in touch with the community. Hopefully that's going to continue long. And I guess just keep an eye on those announcements. Keep an eye on our Twitter feed, Project NISEI.
Yep. And there's links to that in the show notes. You can also, going forward, everyone watching, if you're on Twitch, you can do ! NISEI, and it'll bring up a link to the most recent article, all the press releases that have come in the past, and also the NISEI Twitter, so you can stay informed.
Oh, thank you, Dan. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, this work's really important. I am also very hyped for Worlds. I'm so hyped for Magnum Opus that I have a Magnum Opus tattoo on my arm.
Yes.
So I'm excited for the work that all of you are going to be doing. I don't think that there could be a better person in charge of inclusion and diversity and equality than you, Alice. I think you're a fantastic member of the community, and I really am looking forward to the work that you have done already, I'm sure, that we haven't seen yet, and that you're going to be doing in the future.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I guess I just hope I can do right by the people that I'm trying to represent and trying to support, you know. And I think in a big way, my role is going to involve a lot of input from a lot of people because I can't represent everyone. No. As much as like a white American guy couldn't, I definitely can't. So I'm going to need to listen to a lot of people. So I hope that I do a good job of representing their voices.
I think that's the right mindset, and I think that's the position that you're in. I mean, obviously everyone should be humble, but the position that you're in is an especially humble one because you have to really listen in order to be able to project out what you need to project out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you and all the other lovely United Kingdom amalgam people at
Yeah,
Worlds.
we've got like 30 of us coming over, so you're going to be swamped.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And yeah, in the show notes, all the links to NISEI. There's also Ciara's the memorial fundraiser is in there. Make sure you check that out.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's donated so far. I think the charity is very important, and yeah, anything we can do to really honor her memory is so valuable.
I agree. Alice, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
Yep. And everybody, make sure you keep an eye on what NISEI is doing. And until we see you all again, always be running.
Bye.